heard of outhouses, actually? On the outhouse racing circuit, this is known as bailing out. The racing bug can bite anywhere, anytime, and race competitors scratch that itch any way they can, whether they're on foot, galloping down the straightaway in chariots, or letting gravity pull them to the finish line. Give them a set of wheels, and these folks are off to the races. What's this? Chariot racing? Didn't that go out with the Romans? Not in some parts of the U.S. West, and these chariots are stripped down, streamlined, and fast. They cover a quarter mile in a hair over 20 seconds. That's over 50 miles an hour. And the charioteers get to stand behind 8 thundering hooves in a vehicle that offers as much protection as a cut-down oil drum. Thrilling? You bet. Just ask Ron Surridge, president of the Chariot Racing Association.
There's no other feeling like it than to be in that chariot and feel that burst of speed away from those gates, and you know those horses are giving you everything they've got. It's just there's just not another feeling like it.
Chariot racing goes way back in these parts. In the 1930s, the only way to get around in the winter was by horse-driven sleigh. Being a competitive bunch, the ranchers and farmers soon took to racing each other across the snow. It was a good way to exercise the horses and shake off the cold weather blues. These days, the chariot races take place on racetracks. More and more racetracks every year. It started in Wyoming and just kept growing.
The best thing about it is it's just so dang much fun. You know, everybody that's involved in chariot races brings their families with them. It's a real family-oriented sport, and it's just something that's been good for this area here.
So where would a Ben-Hur wannabe pick up a decent chariot? Bob Litchfield's would be a good place to start. Bob's loved this sport since 1938, when he began racing cutters on his father's ranch. Today's chariots are a far cry from the horse-drawn sleighs that Bob used to jockey. For one thing, they're fiberglass and aluminum. And for another, they run on wheels, not runners.
From 35 years ago when we first started building them, there's hardly any comparison. So there's always improvements. We listen to the drivers, we take their suggestions, and we decide if it'll work. And then a lot of the things here are drivers and their suggestions.
The drivers are glad that Bob listens to their problems, because when you're galloping around a track in a rig that weighs less than 70 pounds, bad things can happen.
And there's thrills and there's spills and there's drivers get hurt, there's horses that get hurt. It's a hazardous sport. And that's why we tried to build in all these features. Safety for the horses, safety for the drivers. And then the drivers have a safety helmet. And someone said, well, where's the seat belt? Well, you don't want a seat belt. You want to be able to get out.
Chariot wheels get banged around pretty good, too, during a race. So Bob's designed special heavy-duty ones for his chariots. Are they any good? Good enough to be named after him.
On these new wheels, we designed it, and they called it a Litchfield hub. They're straight-laced. They don't cross like a bicycle wheel. A lot more strength when you go around a corner.
Bob knows his chariots. He's produced over 1,500 of them during his career, and he knows the chariot racing rules and regs by heart.
The chariot, the driver, and the harness has to weigh a minimum of 275 pounds. If they're under 275 pounds, then they have to put weights on. To bring that up, they have to weigh them. And they weigh them before they run, and then they weigh them after they run.
Today, Bob's taking his latest model out to Ron Surridge. Ron's a big fan and a regular customer of Bob Litchfield. After all, when he's racing, Bob's expertise is all that stands between Ron and a nasty spill, or worse.
This design of chariots, I just think the best there is. It's easy to ride in, it's easy to hook your horses on, it's easy on your horses' necks, you know. It's just the best designed chariot that I've ever rode in.
Ron says Bob's chariots are next door to perfect. There's just one tiny improvement he'd like to see.
The only thing improvement I think would be a windshield that wouldn't let you get hit in the face so much by the rocks and the snow and the water. Other than that, you know, they're just about as light as they can be right now and still be safe, and I just don't know where you can make many more improvements on them.
For chariot racers, it's a labor of love because there's no dough to be made. Race winners get a big hand from the crowd, a trophy for the mantle, and that's it.
Yeah.
And a good chariot will set you back $1,500. A pair of horses to pull it can easily run another $4,000. And yet, chariot racing gets more popular every year.
I hope that it will continue to build. It's a sport that little kids, the grandparents can be involved in it. These sometimes be 40 races in 3 hours. So it's exciting, it's a lot of fun, and people really enjoy it.
They're off and dashing with the break to the outside, Overberg #1.
You can see why spectators have been cheering this spectacle since the time of the ancient Greeks, who included the sport in the first Olympic Games more than 2,000 years ago. If the association has its way, chariot racing will once more be a part of the modern Olympics. And for Bob Litchfield and thousands of other fans, that would be a grand thing. Ever heard of soapbox derbies? They became popular back in the 1930s when kids with a yen to go fast made simple street racers out of scrap lumber, packing crates, even wooden soapboxes. As the sport became more well-known, the vehicles became more sophisticated, but the principle remained the same: an engineless, homemade cart on wheels, driven by kids, and the law of gravity. You're about to meet a group of diehards who still keep the soapbox derby tradition alive. They meet on the steep hills above San Francisco, and they call themselves
the San Francisco Illegal Soapbox Society, which is downhill coasters that you're supposed to beg, borrow, steal your wheels, build your own car, and have a beer holder you're supposed to drink and drive. And then there's also the speed factor of actually winning the actual race other than just getting style points. In the old days, they used to give out trophies and stuff, but we don't hardly do that anymore.
That's soapbox spokesman Wade Boyd, a big kid. And this is his soapbox racer of choice, the Sharkmobile.
I started with the rear wheel, which is out of a motorcycle. I'm a fabricator, so I made the frame really simple. I found 2 more wheels for the front. It's a 3-wheeler. And I put training wheels on the side so that in case you fell over. I did roll it, so I got a roll bar. And this one has actually survived the test of time. I made it in theory to make 1 season. Now it's made like 5 seasons. There's as much crashing out here and thrills and spills. It was just so neat, the total thrill of racing, and you know, you're just here in the neighborhood, coasting down the hill like you did when you're 10 years old. It's hilarious.
But it's not all hilarious. Even soapbox derbies require a certain amount of pre-race preparation. Wade's approach is somewhat short of high-tech.
Like, let me get some duct tape and another beer. On something like this, you really just don't want to have too much technology, because it kind of gets in the way, and it wouldn't be like part of the neighborhood, you know. So we do a lot of duct tape.
This is Wade's racing buddy Rory, another big kid. He gets to pilot a vehicle with a bit of a reputation.
This car was built by Wade from an old motorcycle. And I said, well, how come nobody's racing it? And he said, somebody had crashed it in turn 4 and critically injured 1 person, had to send him to the hospital. And so after that, he took the sidecar out of commission because he felt it was too dangerous. So when I saw it, I was like, well, hey, I want to race it. So I took it out of the backyard and dusted the weeds off and gave it a paint job and started racing it.
The boys are almost ready for their downhill run. They've got their helmets, their gloves, their knee and elbow pads, and one other pre-run precaution. Right, Rory?
You gotta make sure you drink enough beer before you put it in here, because a lot of times the beer will bounce out. Sometimes the beer actually bounces out of the whole car. So you never use glass, always use cans. Drink about half of it or maybe about a third of it. so you don't spill any more on the race course. Ready?
Clear the track, folks. These guys won't be slowing down until they get to the bottom of the hill. Soapbox racing is simple. All you have to do is go as fast as you can. And that means stay away from the brakes. The downside of soapbox racing is the upside, chugging back up the hill on foot after the race. But it's a good chance to relive the highlights, plan your strategy for the next run, and take on needed fuel. And who knows, that extra beer just might give Rory and his soap cycle the weight advantage he needs to take the checkered flag on the next downhill run. Around Cochrane, Alberta have grown used to a strange sight moving along their roads.
Courtney, pick it up, girls, pick it up. Here we go. Yeah.
It looks like an outhouse on wheels, powered by 4 jogging women. And that's exactly what it is.
Way to go.
And in the driver's, make that toilet seat, is Donna Coper, the mastermind behind the Cochrane Outhouse races.
I was on the entertainment committee, and somebody said, well, we've got to have something that's a little bit Western and something different. So I very meekly said, well, how about an outhouse race?
All right, fantastic. Yeehaw.
Some communities hold bingos or dances to have some fun and raise money for charity. In Cochrane, thanks to Donna, they race outhouses. Outhouse racing wasn't a big leap for Donna. She runs a bathroom and home decor shop in Cochrane called the Heavenly Outhouse. You won't find any 2-holers with wooden doors sporting half moons in the Heavenly Outhouse, but Donna and her staff have a nostalgic feel for the good old days of the little house out back. She even has a wall reserved for outhouse photos given to her by friends and customers. They all agree that, be it ever so humble, there's no place like Throne.
It's just really something. And when they come into the store and see these pictures of outhouses, and they say, I've got one, can I send you one? And they do. It's just a part of our past, our history.
And Donna's happy to put her shanty on the starting line. She, her husband Larry, and the rest of the team are fine-tuning their vehicle for the big day. Their Rolling Lou is not just a racer, it's also a little racy.
We're going to be called Best Little Outhouse in the West. Wink, wink. And we're going to be dressed the part and act the part. We're going to be so last, I'm sure, but we're going to have so much fun. The different businesses that participate, they really get into it. I mean, they train, they do everything. They're quite competitive.
Competitive doesn't cover it. The sounds of hammers and saws ring out across Cochrane as folks prepare their privies for the big race. This entry represents the local newspaper, The Eagle. Publisher Jack Tennant says it may not be the fastest, but it's the real McCoy.
has to win the prize for the most authentic, because we could actually stop midway through the race and use this one. You can't do that with the others. But it's all in good fun, and it's kind of typical of this town, and that everybody gets together and has a good time.
But just because it's a good time doesn't mean that Cochrane takes the outhouse races lightly. Contender Alex Baum owns a car dealership in town. Guess what he's got up on the hoist?
Okay, guys, last year we lost by 4 100ths of a second, and we've got to get the tire pressure up a little bit, I think, and let's make sure we lubricate the axles. They make their living repairing and servicing vehicles, and it was kind of a labor of love. They built the thing in the shop and painted it up, and so it's been a total staff project.
Alex and his pit crew are leaving no technological screw unturned in their effort to make up that 4 100ths of a second.
The engineering on our Potty Cruiser is pretty secretive. You know, when the techs were working on the Potty Cruiser, you saw a little bit, but you're not going to see all because that's pretty top secret.
Race day, finally. Dozens of streamlined outhouses from far and wide roll into Cochrane for the annual showdown. The styles are wild, the crews are zany, the tension is sky high, and the air is filled with a whiff of excitement. And that's not all.
I am Potty Princess 2001. The award was given out last week. This is my royal scepter they gave me as a gift. And now my pride and joy is to ride in the outhouse race today.
Potty jokes prevail in Cochrane during the outhouse races. These hopefuls call themselves the Toilet Tissue Tarts, and they've adopted names that expand on the theme.
I'm Smelly Kelly. Gassy Lassie. Penny Potty.
Loosey Goosey and Windy Wendy.
Not surprisingly, when it comes to outhouse humor, these guys in housecoats are strong contenders.
So we've built this totally out of scraps, about $20 altogether we've got invested in this thing.
Here's our team name, That Depends.
And there's the outfits.
Depends.
Meanwhile, Donna Coper and her team of wayward girls make some last-minute adjustments. They also have some surprises under their housecoats.
This is our secret weapon.
Here we are, the Heavenly Gals.
Great round of applause for Joe Carberry.
Joe Carberry is the announcer who calls the play-by-play in the chuck wagon races at the world-famous Calgary Stampede. Chuck wagons, outhouses, any difference, Joe?
Maybe the only difference might be that you see the winner of the chuck wagons at the Stampede gets $50,000. And I think the winner of this gets a wooden plaque. So that's about the only difference. Just $50,000. It's such a fun thing. Everybody lets their hair down, and in some cases, I think they even let their pants down. I don't think there's anything else like it anywhere in the world, so you gotta be here for the big show.
This is only the second year for the Cochrane Outhouse races, but already it's a hugely popular event. Each team pays a registration fee of $100, and the money goes to charity. As well as trophies for racing prowess, teams are vying for awards for the most original and most humorous outhouse. Those dudes in diapers aren't as goofy as they look. They clean up in the men's category. Now go home and put some clothes on, guys. Clear the streets, boys. The women's final is coming right up.
And there's
At the Cochrane Outhouse race, each team must have one member in the outhouse. Piece of cake? Donna Coper doesn't think so.
You know, a lot of people say, oh, I can't run, I want to sit on the throne. But trust me, sitting on the throne, if you've got somebody barreling down there and you've got to make a figure 8, it's scary. Because they're just running full out and full tilt, and you're just hanging on. So you have to have something to hang on. You just can't sit there.
The ladies' final is on, and it's neck and neck between Heavenly Outhouse and the Toilet Tissue Tarts.
Okay, take this corner. Let's go, let's go, let's
These rolling commodes may not be the most aerodynamic racing vehicles in the world, but to the folks of Cochrane, this beats the Indy 500.
Heading to the wire, Heavenly Outhouse wins the ladies' final, edging out the great car. Where's Donna? Come on out there, Donna, sitting on the throne. There she is, folks. How about that? Donna from the Heavenly Outhouse.
And in case you forgot that this really is a community affair, check how the winners treat the losers. Race day is done, and Donna's got a few bumps and bruises to deal with. She knows just how to do it. Ride up a hill to her favorite outhouse with bath, climb in, and soak in the glow of a prairie sunset.
This was good. This was good for the town of Cochrane. It was good for so many people. So many people benefit by it. And that just makes me feel good.
Almost as good as a hot bath. Don't look now, Donna, but you've got visitors. As for our soapboxers, Rory and Wade, we wish them steep hills and no spills. As for you, Ron Surridge, we're hoping to see you at the Olympics.